And then it goes in.
What's happening here? I always
Totally.
think, is that like the way our mind works? It's like if you run upstairs for something, you get upstairs and you're like, what did I run upstairs for? I've totally forgot what I needed. And then you run back downstairs and retrace your steps.
And then
that.
you remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild.
So I always think,
yeah.
Yeah.
If we can like learn to kind of, like access that part of our mind, and sort of like the way I see it is like navigating our consciousness. And we have different, like, there's different brain waves, the alpha, and I don't know them all, but like, there's different brain waves they measured, and like people who are in very deep meditation have different brain waves, and those who are like focused on just like what's going on outside.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like navigating through our consciousness and like helping our consciousness evolve, because like in my, through my studies, my living in India and meditation and all these things, and just like practical life experience now, it's like there's so much that's out of our control.
This podcast isn't to be used to act as a substitute for mental health counselling, and I am not a therapist in any way, shape or form. I'm just here giving you ways in which I dealt with my mental health. Welcome everybody to Still Worth the Journey podcast, and it's another week. We're getting there. We're getting closer to Christmas, and again, as always, we've brought you a very, very, very special guest. Put my teeth back in. Madhavi, and she is she specialises in self-hypnosis, meditation, and breath work. And I'm glad that she's here to speak to you guys today. Hello, Madhavi.
Hello. Thank you. It's Madhavi. That's all right.
Madhavi.
Yes. It's a hard name. It's fine.
Madhavi.
Yes.
We literally practiced this before we started to record, didn't we?
It's fine.
So sorry. Madhavi.
Yes.
What's that name mean? Is there a meaning for that name?
It's a Sanskrit name. It's a name for a jasmine flower. And if you've heard of Krishna and Radha, so Madhavi is a name for the goddess Radha. She's the goddess of love and affection. And when she controls her lover with love, her lover Krishna with love, then she's called Madhavi. So it's also like a meditation. My spiritual teacher or guru, he gave me that name when I met him. And I don't see myself like that, but I see it as like an intention.
Yeah. No, I get it. And Krishna, do you mean like when I've been uptown before now and you hear people saying Hare Krishna? Is that?
Yeah.
Or is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. So yes. People obviously listening now, you'd know exactly what that is. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. And how did you, like, where did it all start for you? What put you on this journey? Was you doing this always, or was there a reason? What steered you towards this?
Well, I grew up in a Hare Krishna temple. And we lived in the temple until I was about 9 years old. And so a whole part of my childhood journey was chanting, was meditation, was kind of like seeking the divine in some way. And when I was 9, we moved out. I went to public school, and that whole life was like, that's my parents. That's not me. I don't know about that stuff. And then I had a curiosity about philosophy, and I loved to read. So when I was about 17, I spent like a summer in Borders bookstore, and I was reading all of the philosophy section: Taoism, witchcraft, Buddhism, the Bible, everything. And so when I kind of got through with that, I came to my dad and I was like, all right, give me one of your books. I'm ready. I'll check it out. And so when I read the book he gave me, which was like the first book of like a set of books, it answered the questions I had, and it answered questions I didn't think to ask. And so that kind of began my spiritual journey, I guess, as an adult, even though now at 44, I think 18, 19 is not an adult. But back then, I'm like, I'm grown, I'm going to explore. And so then I met my guru, my spiritual teacher at 19, and he was traveling the world doing 2 world tours every year and pilgrimages in India. And I had money saved and I hopped on the bandwagon and I thought, I'll do an experiment. I'll give like a year of my life to this and just see what happens. So that year turned into about 5 trips to India, 3 to 6 months at a time. And then I came back to Florida, and I was at that time I had just had my second child, and I became curious. I saw this hypnotherapy course, and I thought, well, that looks interesting, and I want to learn how to do these things for myself. And I don't know if you have kids, but sometimes ha- they can trigger some emotions, some
Yep.
frustration.
Yeah.
So
Testing. Testing
yeah,
times.
yeah, exactly. So I felt like sometimes I was getting angry, like exponentially larger than the actual situation called for. And so I
Yeah.
went through this training to just kind of get a handle on my mind and my emotions. And about halfway through my training, my marriage sort of, it was the end of it, the start of the end. So then I really was like, I really need these tools to help me. And
Yeah.
when I graduated, I reached out. There was some friends of mine who did sound healing and massage therapy and different healing arts. So I reached out. I said, "Hey, will you trade me a session because I need help." And and then about a year from that, I my phone started ringing, and it was like, "Hey, my massage therapist told me to call you. Can you help me with this problem?" And I
Wow.
don't know, I don't know if I can help you. I mean, it's helping me, but to help another person, that's kind of different.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it began. I started getting these calls, and now it's been, I want to say, between 15 and almost 16 years now. And now when people call me, I'm like, yeah, I can teach you how to do these things,
Brilliant.
and you can be empowered for yourself. And so that's really like the goal of my work, is to share tools that help me and have consistently helped my clients, and to not just have someone come to me week after week, year after year, but here's these tools. If you practice them, then you've got them for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And then they can share them on as well to friends and family that may
Yes,
need that
yes,
as
for their
well.
kids, for their family. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
And you get
guess.
so much back as well from giving, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You
it's
know,
so
the karma's
wonderful.
kind of thing it brings back.
And it's like a nice thing to walk into a room, and no matter how bad someone's feeling or whatever, trauma or physical pain that they're in, I know that this is going to help them. And so I come in and they're like, yeah, I don't know if this is going to work. And I'm just like, big smile on my face, like, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. We've all been there though. We've had
hmm
breaks like that, haven't we? Where we're
hmm
always down and out and we're like, nothing's gonna help. There's
hmm
no way out of this. You know, I've been there. I've been there. It's been me.
Yeah.
I've always thought.
hmm
But yeah, it's an amazing journey.
Yeah.
And what's happened since then? So I take it you're no longer with the husband,
No.
or
No, I've got my 16 and 19-year-old with me full time, and I've tried to share these things with them, and they'll tell me, "Don't tell me how to breathe. I know to breathe, Mom. Stop." You know? But
sounds like my kids. Yeah,
yeah, no
they
one
know
wants to hear
best.
it. Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. But to this day, when they're upset, and this is as they were growing up, I told them, we all have big feelings, but we don't get to like vomit them on the other people in the house. So you're allowed to
yeah,
have your feelings. You're not going to be in trouble for having an emotion, but there's a space for it. And so to this day, they when they're upset, they go in their room and I'll hear them yelling or crying or whatever it is. And then when they're
yeah.
done, they come out and it's like, okay, now we can interact again.
Get that off your chest. Yeah,
Yeah,
because you
yeah,
do
like
need
let it
that.
out.
You do need that.
hmm
Yeah, I find it hard to let it out. At the minute, I'm struggling massively with my anger over the last couple of weeks, it's gone. Yeah, it's gone to the point where I'm now having sessions
Okay.
with CBT and stress management and all of that with
Nice.
my local doctors and whatnots. And yeah, it opens your mind, because you're like, well, why am I getting this angry? What's the cause of it?
Yes.
And it's like Alice in the Wonderland, going down the rabbit hole, and you're just forever searching. You know what I mean? It opens up your
Yes.
mind.
Yeah, there's like layers. We have so many
Yeah,
layers.
like an onion.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, just a quick one. Didn't want to stop you listening to that excellent story that's within this podcast right now, but I just wanted to give you a shout out. If you yourself have enjoyed this podcast so far and believe that you have your own story to tell, then why not get in touch with me today? Just reach out by searching Still Worth the Journey. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and any other platform. If you've got a story to tell, share yours with me today. Let's get right back into this week's episode.
Exactly. Yeah, when I work with one-on-one with clients, I always incorporate breathing. So when we're stressed, when we're afraid, we hold our breath and we tense our body. And so over a period of time, that tension. And I read recently, there was like a Harvard study where they said that panic attacks are caused from holding the breath. And so what happens is that holding, and our body's not getting the oxygen it needs. And so then what happens is the heart starts pop, pop, beating really fast. And then the mind goes into more fear and worry because, something's wrong. My heart is racing, which leads to more holding. And then this panic feeling, this, our body's like forcing us back into breathing. Yeah. So when we take slow, long, deep diaphragmatic breath, like into our belly and our chest, it stimulates our vagus nerve, and it forces our body, it forces our nervous system to move from that fight or flight, stress state into rest, digest, and relax state. And so breathing is like one of the most that I've experienced, and with my clients, like one of the most profound ways to just switch our nervous system out of like whatever emotion it is. And it's not like take a deep breath, calm down. It's like keep breathing until you calm down. Yeah, until you feel that.
Yeah, it could take a while as well. I've tried to breathe. Like I said, I'm new to meditating. Since starting this podcast, it's helped me a lot because I'm speaking to people. I've said this many times before on this podcast. People that I have on here help my mentality massively. I've literally changing over time. I can see it. The only thing that's hanging around, like I no longer feel depressed. I no longer feel like that. Every morning I do. When it's dark outside, and I'm like, well, what? I feel numb, like a real numbness. So then I'd flick over to my Amazon and put on the meditation stuff. They're like, was it 635 hertz or 935 hertz or classical music?
Yeah.
And I'd be driving along and people be looking at me. They're like, is he listening to classical music? And I'm like, it chills me out, mate. I need that chill time before I get into the big world of work.
Yes.
Because being a truck driver, there's a lot of road rage. There's a lot of people on the roads that want to get someplace, but me being in a truck, I'm 50 foot long, 45 foot long, getting around and dealing with all these whizzing cars and stuff. And you need to find that calm, because if you don't, it's going to be a total madness on the roads.
You're riding in a death machine there. Like you've got to be like calm and peaceful. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so important. Yeah, you were talking about that anger and the layers, and I was from the hypnotherapy standpoint, our mind from when we're born until the age of 10, our mind is like a sponge. We call it like the subconscious mind, and we're just absorbing information, and we're starting to have beliefs about ourselves and about the world. And then from about 10, that subconscious closes. And my hypnotherapy teacher would say that we're all running around, educated 10-year-olds, trying to make sense of our inner mother, our inner father, and our inner child. And it's like from those ages, we just, and then so it's like people say, I'll believe it when I see it, right? But
Yeah.
actually, our consciousness works the opposite. We believe something and then we see it, we experience it. And that's why you'll see people like, why do I keep making these same mistakes? Or why does this keep happening to me? Or why, things are, especially at like our age, we've lived long enough to like start noticing, like, oh, there's some patterns there. And so what it
Yeah.
is that we're like wearing these glasses that are our beliefs. And if you're wearing red glasses, then you see red and you experience red. You all of a sudden you put on yellow glasses and the vision, oh, things start to look different. So with hypnotherapy, it's to go into those, like that pre-program, that subconscious, and then to change those belief systems that are maybe not serving us so well. Like maybe we have some coping mechanisms that, may have worked when we were younger, but not so much as we get older.
In adult life, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's absolutely, it's mad though, isn't it, to think like that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
did can you remember a point where this practice of yours really helped you? Is there a moment in time where you're like you said before, when people are like, oh, this won't work on me? Have you ever had one of those moments, like an epiphany where it's like, wow, I'm going to try it
Yeah.
on myself and it's worked?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So in my training, the first thing, like my goal is this like layers of this anger, this like sort of like spurts that would come out. And I remember it being, I don't know, 4 or 5 months after I graduated, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my goodness, I don't remember the last time I was that angry. Like it's a very subtle work, and so it wasn't like this immediate like, oh, okay, now I'm all better or something. But it was like a dawning, like a very subtle change that all of a sudden, like those things that were bothering me and aggravate, they were just like those triggers just like dissipated. And I also, so my younger daughter was, I think, 6 months when I started my training, and I had put on maybe like 50 pounds when I was pregnant with her. And,
Yeah.
it wasn't like I was like
Oh,
huge. I wasn't huge, but, for me, it was like uncomfortable. So one of the techniques we learned was about how we envision ourselves. And so if we change the vision of ourselves, how we see ourselves, then our body responds. So I had done this meditation and created like this self-image. I want to be this weight and I want to look like this. And I don't know, it probably was a period of 6 months, and that was all I did. I just changed my thought. I didn't change my eating. I wasn't like exercising a bunch or anything. And I actually got down below the weight I had intended for myself. And so then I actually was like, oh, I need to put on some weight at this point. I've gone too low. So yeah, I've had it. And I guess one more major life event. About 5 years ago, my father passed away suddenly, and he was, my best friend. Like we would talk every day, and so after his passing, there was obviously a lot of grief. And so every evening, after taking care of the kids and the family and managing everything, I would sit and I would just like sit in that pain, that sorrow, and feel it and breathe through it. And yeah, I feel like it's in a way it like saved me through that
mm,
process. And not just me, I've seen this, with clients who are dealing with grief and loss, that they're able to use like their breath and then their conscious like meditation to like alleviate and to like pass through that grief.
yeah. It's just quite stuff that you've gone through then. So you, at one moment you're thinking you've put the weight on,
Mhm.
but you're pregnant, you're bound
Mhm.
to. So that's just a normal body
Yeah.
reaction, isn't it? Putting on.
Mhm.
But the loss of your father is the major one there.
Mhm. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know
That was.
that I'm not there. I've not seen my dad for years. Um, to think about losing him, I think that'll be a different conversation I'd have to have with myself.
Yeah.
Even though we're not like best buddies anymore, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, due to past events and that. But yeah, that'd be hard to deal
Yeah.
with. But at
Yeah.
least it puts you in a place where you're qualified to speak
Mm-hmm.
to somebody as well that's grieving, and you can offer that support for what they went through,
Yeah.
because you can relate in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And the breathing work, if it's worked, then hopefully there is a light at the end of it. There is a way out from
Yeah.
feeling the way that you do. I mean, you'll never forget. Obviously, you'll never
No.
forget that
No.
your father and that lot
Mm-hmm.
would always be there in your memories, alive in
Yeah.
your memories.
Mm-hmm.
But what's left behind, if you've got the kids as well on your own, you're going through what you was going through with your ex-husband.
Yeah,
That's a
it's a
lot.
lot. It's a lot of stuff, and I
To
feel
see
like
you here
these.
smiling
Yeah.
and to tell me that
Yeah.
you're 44 when you don't look a day over 30. So you've obviously done something right. This breathing work obviously does something.
It definitely it does. And you're right, like I feel like whatever any client comes in with, like I'm prepared to sit with them and and like hold space. I don't know if I like the word hold space, but that's like kind of like what people use. But like to sit with them and to like encourage them to feel their feelings. And I tell my clients, because I've experienced so many emotions, it's like generally like we live in a society where like big feelings, it's like as we grow up we're like taught like, oh, I'll give you something to cry about, don't cry. Or we're in this sort of like, how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine. And there's like this no like room for big emotions. And we kind of learn like, oh, I have this feeling, it's not a good feeling, I shouldn't feel it. Or if I do feel it, it's gonna consume me. Or if I feel it, I won't feel anything else. Right? It's like gonna overwhelm me.
Yeah,
And I've experienced those big feelings and been able to like to move through them. And what I've learned and what I share, and what I teach is that no one feeling lasts forever. Like all
no,
feelings pass. And when we're trying so hard not to feel something that's actually already there, when we repress that emotion, we're not just repressing like anger or sadness, we're repressing. And it means that even our ability to experience joy and love, it becomes diminished because we're
yeah,
working
it
so
does. Yeah,
hard to like put that down. And so when we can, in a like safe, loving environment, like face those feelings or those fears and receive love on the other end, and like accept that part of ourselves, then our ability for joy and for connection just grows significantly because our energy isn't going towards like pushing something away.
exactly. Yeah, you're harnessing that. I mean, there is days where I don't know what part of the body this comes from, but say like I've gone with what I've gone through, right? So not as bad as what you've gone through losing someone, but I've gone through, trying to end it. I've gone through the depression, the anxiety, the panic attacks,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So when I'm having a really good day, because I put it to the back of my mind, say if there's days, because not every day you're down, not
Sure.
every day
No, no.
you're feeling
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
but there's days where I find myself excited and happy, okay? And then when it's almost my brain forces me to think, well, what about that? And then all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden you feel guilty for feeling happy.
Yeah.
And then you go back in yourself again. I don't know what that is. Someone said it on the podcast before. They call it one of the senses in the brain. It's it's like a bad guy in your head
Mm-hmm.
that literally wants to keep showing you, keeps turning up. Whenever you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling good about yourself, he's there to knock you back down and say, get back down here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I forget the word that they use. They use the word for this person.
Well, we would
Oh,
like in my field, so we call it like a part. Like there's a part of ourselves that's like an inner critic, you could say.
that's it.
And
That's what it's
yeah,
called. The inner
yeah,
critic.
the inner
Yes.
critic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all according, to what I've learned and experienced and taught, it's like all parts of ourselves, even that critic, wants the best for us. But it's like as our consciousness developed, that critic kind of developed to like protect us from something. We might not consciously know what it is. So it like comes up to like, hey, like be careful, be careful. It's like a warning, right? But so with the work that I do is we learn to like acknowledge that critic, and then to kind of say like, hey, I know you want to like benefit me. I know you want to help me, but the way you're going about it is actually causing harm. So
Yeah, a lot of harm.
can I give you a new job? And because
Yeah,
it's actually just a part of our consciousness, it's a part of ourselves. And when we're in that, like I would say like hypnotic or meditative state, we're more receptive to change, really, to change our consciousness. And so then we give that part like a new job, to say like, hey, isn't it great you're feeling good? Or, go out and take a walk, your
yeah,
energy is low. And or like when we're sick, and that voice comes in like, you're so lazy, what are you doing? And it's like, hey, can
yeah,
you tell me like
yeah,
you're healing with every breath? you know just something different.
yeah,
So yeah, learning to like observe our consciousness, and then to see like those parts that aren't necessarily like doing the best for us. And then I've seen it, I've experienced, like it's quite possible to change that dynamic and have more, I don't know if it's like inner harmony or just like alignment with the not like multiple personalities, but just like parts of our psyche.
yeah. That makes us up. And
Mm.
what would you do with that? Would you normally write stuff down, like a journal kind of thing of all the things that you're thinking of to work out where it's basically so you can rewire it? Like you do with like a dream diary. You
Mm-hmm.
wake up in the middle and you write down, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I've had this dream, and then perhaps 2 weeks later you've had the same dream. It's reoccurring. Would you do the same with these critical moments in life as well, like with the way that you're feeling,
You
to find a
can
pattern in
you
in
you
stuff?
can write it down. Like if a client comes to me and they have like a harsh inner critic, so we go into like a deep. To me, okay, I'll just explain real quick. To me, hypnosis, meditation, and our imagination are all like almost the same thing, and we're using different words, but like we all have this ability to like imagine, right? Imagine good or imagine our
Yeah,
problems. And so when a client comes in with that harsh inner critic, we kind of go through stages. Like I have different thing, like different techniques that I teach to like build up to that stage, to have that inner dialogue. But we'll actually like have an inner sanctuary, like your safe place. It could be like the beach or the mountains or somewhere where you like to be. And then we invite that critic, that personality in. And then we'll have a
oh,
dialogue like, hey, so like what is your purpose? What are you
yeah,
trying, what's the message you're trying to send me here? And very often it's a protective thing. It's I don't feel safe, and this is the way to feel safe. And so then we like work through like, well, what do you need to feel safe, or what do you need to feel protected or loved? And so we dialogue with that part, like love and accept it. And then once it's sort of revealed what the needs are of that part, then we kind of will invite in like the adult self usually it's like a inner child, I'll say, but not always. But then like our higher self or like our conscious mind to come in and educate that part, like, hey, so that's not really working anymore, and this would be a lot better if you could do this instead. Do you agree to do this? And then 99.9, the part's like, yeah, okay, yeah, cool, because it's like it still wants a job. Like it needs
yeah,
it's not like we can just like delete something from our consciousness. Like all of these parts of they're all parts of ourselves. So then we negotiate and find, something that it can do, that part of ourselves. And I had most recently I had a client, and not to share too much personal, but she had experienced a scary moment in her life, and so her inner critic was there to protect her from this moment. And so what we did is, we gave the part a new job, and then the next week we went into that memory where she felt unsafe. And I was like, just like watching a movie. Like if you were going to rewrite the script for this scene in the movie, like how would you want it to go? And so in that time,
Mm.
she had a voice. She was protected. She actually protected other, personalities, like friends of hers that weren't in real life. So then in this memory, she changed it to where she actually felt empowered and she empowered others. And the next week she came in and she was like, it's not that I don't remember, but it's like that new vision, that's what's like in the forefront of my mind now. And I don't feel like those emotional triggers anymore. So it's not like we're
Wow.
erasing anything, but we're
Just
changing.
rewriting.
Yeah. And that's possible because we talked about like we have that critical mind, but we have our subconscious mind. And through our imagination, through meditation, through self hypnosis, we access that subconscious. And the subconscious, it doesn't know fantasy from reality. It's like a visual
Yeah.
creature. And so, my favorite example, how our subconscious like changes our emotions when we're young and like pre-dating, just like at the point of when you start having those crushes. You see someone
Mm.
and you're like, oh, they're cute. And so it happens, we see that person and then we start to think about them and we're in school or we're home and we're like imagining like, oh, I'll bump into them again and they'll say this to me and we'll do this together.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're in love and no one can tell you like, that's not love. You're like, no, I'm in love and everything tastes better. Life is joyful. Like this is the best thing ever. And there's been no kissing, no touching, no, they might not even know your
Yeah.
name. So through
Exactly. Yeah.
our imagination, we've like come into this very real feeling of love. And we created it through like our thinking. And then as we get older, the tendency is like this problem, the problem that happened in the past, and this problem that might happen in the future. And our energy goes down
Yeah.
and life becomes dull and depressing. And so when we kind of like lose that sense or that connection as we get older. And so, yeah, what I teach is like come back into that loving space, come back into that loving, that feeling, because nothing actually, when we can access that subconscious and direct it, it doesn't know that you didn't really have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. It just knows what's going on through the imagination. And so we
That's
can,
powerful.
it's beautiful. It's like so amazing.
Well, I'm just thinking about all the millionaires out there as well. Imagine they can totally rewrite their career path just by thinking in that kind of way, if you know what I mean. Because I do remember
Yeah.
that stage, what you
hmm
mentioned,
hmm
when you're in love and you're like that, and then the next day you go up to them, they're like, who are you again? You're like,
Yeah.
oh, what? I've mapped out
Yeah.
our whole life. We've got kids
Yeah,
and
we're
dogs,
married.
everything.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
got the white picket
And
fence
that's
picked out.
powerful.
Yeah.
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 So,
So, mhm.
so if I was to come to your clinic, what is the clinic that you run? What's the name of it?
So
For anybody
I have
listening out there.
the Prana Academy. And like I told you before we started, you can put me in front of any number of people, a stadium, I'm fine, but put me in front of a website builder. So I am in process and progress, but I have the Prana Academy on Facebook, Instagram, and my website. And essentially, I do group classes, I do one-on-one session, couples. I had someone have me go to their family home, and I did like 5 or 6 of their family members all together, and we did like breathing together.
Wow.
And so just depending, in a group, it's a little different because I can give like general information, but in
Yeah.
a one-on-one setting, then, usually we go from like 6 to 9 weeks in general. If you practice at the end of that time frame, you've got the tools, you understand them, you know how to like access that subconscious, and you have lots of like a internal playground, so to speak, where we
Wow.
can, yeah, and I have clients. I had one last year and she finished up with me. We did 6 sessions and she's like, Madhavi, I really liked working with you. It was amazing. I don't know how to tell you this, but I don't think I need you anymore. And I was like, yes,
It's
that's what I want to
heartbreaking, but
hear,
great at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I have others who it's like, I'm like, hey, how's your practice going? We've been seeing each other for a while. Like, oh, I don't, it's just when I see you, that's my time for this. And so, I'm
Uh,
not complaining. It's nice, of course, earning an income is great, but my intent in teaching is like we all have this ability. It's within us. We do it unconsciously, and now it's just turning it around and being conscious about it.
yeah. It's mental. So if I was to come to say
Mm-hmm.
the Prana Academy as me,
Mm-hmm.
my first day, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming in, I'm sitting down, and I wanted that inner child back to
Mm-hmm.
give me away from all of this anger that's inside me, the depression that I get on days, not as it used to be. It's not as
Mm-hmm.
dark as what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do how would that work out? So if anyone's listening, obviously, how would this process work? It sounds so wonderful that I want to try it, and I
Mm-hmm.
imagine listeners are like hanging on the chairs, like, what is the secret to this? Because this sounds like, you could bottle it up and sell it for millions of pounds.
That's what I'm working on. That's why the website's got to come up.
You've got
Yeah,
to get
because
that website. Yeah, get it done.
I teach something that works. It consistently has a positive effect, and it's not snake oil. These are, if you research like breathing, diaphragmatic breathing effects on the body. If you research, the power of hypnotherapy, you'll see like these are tried and true, tested techniques. So if you came to me, um, depending on where your like emotion level was at when you come in, we
Yeah,
create like personalized affirmations. So I actually have a worksheet, and so we uncover like what is that inner dialogue saying, like what negative beliefs are you holding about yourself, and then we create like
not good enough is what
yeah,
I get.
so there you go. So like rather than feeling not
Yeah,
good enough, I want to feel
I want to feel, just want to feel normal. That's the
normal.
that's,
See?
that's the realist thing. Yeah, I just want to feel normal, like I fit in.
Like it fit in. So
That's
yeah,
most.
so
Yeah,
we get the negative and then we get the positive and then we create like affirmations because like the mind it doesn't stop. It's like always moving. And so like there's a sort of like an inner dialogue that's happening. So the affirmations that we create are like based on your words, your beliefs, and the things that you desire. And so then you start to say these affirmations, and it's like you're changing that inner dialogue. Like you catch yourself, oh, I'm worthless. No, 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 I fit in. I'm loved. I'm connected. And so that's like
right. Okay.
the like baseline, like of just getting that like adjusting, and I incorporate breathing into everything that I teach because it's like such an effective way to relax the nervous system, to relax the mind. And when we're relaxed, then our consciousness is more receptive. And I also do so for like big emotions, for trauma, for grief. I do like a longer it's the whole session's 2 hours. You're not breathing 2 hours, but I would say you're breathing between like 45 and 60 minutes of that time. And that
Yeah.
is like peeling the layer of the onion. Like you're gonna feel like like a sense of relief, like a lightness come over you. And so with that like type of shift and that length of time, then on your own, it's like the difference in the sensations. Like what it really feels like to have that shift in your nervous system. And it brings like more awareness to like throughout the day. Am I breathing or am I holding? And then if you're holding, you know what to do to keep, because it's like we can peel a layer off, but then we can just take 10 more on, so we don't want to do that. We
Yeah.
want to like kind of peel and we want to like refill with those intentions, with those affirmations. And so then I talked a little bit. We have the inner sanctuary, like being able to come into a meditative space and like go to your safe place, like that place you feel good, because the subconscious doesn't know that you're not physically there. It just takes it like, yeah, I am
Yeah.
at the beach, And I had one guy, I do this thing, it's called core transformation, and it's like, what would feel better? What would feel better? So he's like, my sanctuary is the beach. Okay, great. All right, so you're on the beach. How do you feel? Well, I feel good. All right, what would feel better than good? Like, you have a magic genie there. What do you want? Well, I want a hammock. All right, imagine you have your hammock. Now you're laying on the hammock at the beach. The wind is blowing, sun's on your skin. How do you feel? Well, I feel peaceful. Well, what would feel even better than that? A cold beer. All right.
Yeah.
So imagine your cold beer. All right. I got my cold beer in my hand. I'm like, what would feel even better than this? And he's like, nothing. Like, this is bliss. Like, just being there at the beach, no distractions, And so then, because he had that experience, now it's like he can retreat internally back to the beach, back to that moment, and recreate all of those good feelings, because they're already there, and we're just kind of like guiding our mind back into that space. And so whatever,
Yeah.
some people it's the mountains or the meadows. And yeah, I don't want to reveal all my secrets, but you get the
Yeah. No,
idea. So
I get.
there's, stages, and each session builds upon the next. And so that we're like building a castle in our mind. We're building like a safe space and a place where we can feel those big feelings and release them and feel okay and safe about it, and not like vomit it up on somebody else or like repress it within ourselves.
Yeah.
One more thing I'll say, and then if you have more questions. But I read also another Harvard study that we have three kinds of tears. We have blinking tears, we have eye irritant tears, and something gets stuck in the eye, and we have crying tears. So our crying tears are chemically 80% cortisol. And I'm not sure if you know what cortisol is, but cortisol is a
I've
toxin.
heard of it, but I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's a stress
Yeah, I don't know
hormone.
what it is.
So when we're stressed, this cortisol builds up in our brain. It goes into our bloodstream, and doctors will say stress causes illness. There's like this direct correlation. But what is it like
Yeah.
on a physiological level? This stress is cortisol. And so our tears, our crying tears, are 80% of this toxin coming out of our body. So just like,
It's actually healing.
you go to the bathroom, you don't hold that in. You're not like, I'm too strong, I'm too strong to poop. I don't need to, poop.
Yeah.
It's like,
get back in there.
Yeah, I never do that. So when we're holding in our tears, we're like holding that poison in our body. And no medical professional has ever told me like, hey, you're stressed, maybe you should cry. Like, in fact, it's generally the opposite in our society, like, hold it in, be strong. But really, like, it's our body's like natural mechanism to relieve stress. So I think we should have crying schools, or we should just at least feel like we have a safe space for that.
Yeah, definitely, especially for men as well, because we just don't show our emotions. We don't like to cry in public. I think I've only ever cried once, like properly cried once, and that was 6 months after my nan passed away. The grieving just hit me, and it was where it's inconsolable, and it can't stop, and it can't stop, and it can't stop. And I tell you what, the relief you feel after you've had that cry, though.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, because you feel so light and so like,
yeah, it's a relief.
That was good to get out.
Yeah.
It was it really was a relief, because I didn't realise it. For those 6 months of when my nan passed, she was my best friend. And when she passed away, that's okay.
All right.
We can pause it here.
I can pause it. Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second.
I'll mark the clip.
All right.
That's fine. So we're back. I forget where we was, but I will touch on, like, so previous, you was on about the guy that was visualizing himself on the beach with a cold beer, absolutely bliss. He was in a perfect position. What happens if there's people like me that are finding it hard to visualize these things in our own heads? We try to manipulate our own brains to think we're there, but our brain keeps telling us, no, you're in your bedroom with people around you, kind of thing.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and just the first thing that comes to your head, describe to me a bell ringing.
Ding. I don't know, just
Okay.
dings.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for you, it was the sound that came first, right? It was like ding. So for some people, they'll describe like this ornate bell, and then they'll describe some vibration and then the sound. And so we have these senses. We are visual, we're auditory, and we're kinesthetic, which is like the kinesthetics, like the physical sensation. And we all have all three, but we all have like a predominating sense. So some people, visual is the first thing. Some people, they're auditory beings, and some are kinesthetic. And so depending on, so like if you came to me, we would figure that out. Like right now we figured out like auditory is like the first thing.
Yeah.
And so when I guide someone into self-hypnosis, and also knowing it like about yourself, so the idea is with meditation, right? We're taking our external senses and we're bringing them into like an internal realm. And so if we know what our predominating sense is, then we want to absorb that one first. So like if I was to take you to the beach, then I would have you like lay down, close your eyes, we do some breathing, get you relaxed. And then it's like, hear the sounds of the waves. Hear the sounds of the seagulls. Listen to the sounds of maybe children laughing in the background. And I bet right now I can see on your face, like,
Yeah, I
you're
can
like,
see
yeah,
that.
totally, totally.
I can hear the seagull. The
Yeah.
children running around, yeah, and the waves
Yeah.
crashing.
Uh-huh.
That's mad.
So
Okay,
so
okay,
we
I'm
just
believing.
bring in a different sense and we absorb that sense first. And then when that sense is there, then we bring in another one, like feel the warmth of the sun on your skin and feel the breeze. You know, maybe there's some mist from the ocean waves coming across your face. And then when that's like fully absorbed, then I'd be like, okay, now open your eyes. Like not actually open your eyes, but like the inner eyes. And so I did this actually when I was in my training, and it's cool that I got to experience this. But one of the teacher trainers in my class, she had graduated before me. She's like, I can't see, I can't. I'm not a visual person. I can't see. So it took me like about an hour, and I like brought her in, through sound, through kinesthetic. And then when it was like she was really absorbed in all that, I was like, okay, now open your eyes. And she goes, oh, I can see. And like
Wow.
for me, it was an experiment, right? It was an experiment, but I was lucky because I learned that early on that actually, we can utilize all of these things, and we can be visual people when we don't think we are. But it's just about like our senses are constantly looking for external stimulation, and the mind is always running. And so it takes patience, it takes practice and repetition, and knowing like these things about ourselves to be able to like bring that from outside to inside. And then once you can, it's like riding a bike. Like, oh, okay, that was easy. I know exactly what to do, and I can just sit here, breathe, and like go back to the beach and feel all these things and hear these things. So yeah, that's what I would do if
Yeah, that
someone
sounds
came in. Yeah.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds amazing. See, I get so envious online when I see these people just sat there
Mm-hmm.
for like what seems like hours. They're just still,
Mm-hmm.
so still,
Mm-hmm.
but their face looks at peace, and I'm like, I want that. How
Yeah.
do I tap into that? Because and I'm just thinking to myself, so is there like different types of meditation for different feelings or for different people? So say like you've just found out I'm audible, or what did you
Mm-hmm.
say? The
Auditory.
audio,
Yeah.
auditory.
Auditory.
Sorry, my
Yeah.
words honestly I'm really
It's
rubbish.
okay.
So audit. Are there meditations that are aimed at that? So say if there's people out there that are just visionary or auditory, or I'll say my word, physical. Is
Yeah.
there, obviously, actually, physical might be a bit of a hard one if you're listening to it. You'd have to rub your hands in something, I suppose, or something. Or have
Well,
your missus or your husband or something.
like in general, because like what I do is specific, what the tools that I'm teaching is to like bring our mind, our consciousness from outside to inside, and to change the things that maybe aren't, helping us, the parts of ourselves that aren't serving us, or to like work through feelings of trauma or stress, or even honestly, like I've I've had clients with like severe arthritis, and after like doing a session, their mobility increases, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" Like their pain is like
Wow.
significantly diminished. So like that's, my purpose is more like therapeutic intentions through these practices. But there's walking meditation, like there's chanting, which is like, singing and saying prayers. And so there are like lots of different types of meditation. And so we might gravitate towards, one type or another, but I think the goal of all of them, and like really of all like living things, we all respond to love. We like all want
Yeah.
to feel love. And they've done studies with plants, and they put like two plants in a classroom, and every morning the kids come in, and one plant, they're like, "You're horrible. We hate you. You're so ugly." And the other plant,
Oh.
yeah, the other plant, "You're beautiful. I love you." And same water, same sunlight, but the plant with a negative word dies, and the plants with the positive word thrives. And they've done,
Wow.
I forgot his name. There was a Japanese man, but they froze these water crystals, and each one had like a positive or a negative word on it. And so when they froze, they all looked like snowflakes, but the ones with the negative words were like you could say misshapen, and or not symmetrical. And the ones with the positive words look like, your typical beautiful snowflake. And so
Symmetrical, yeah.
our bodies our bodies are what, like 70% water, something like that, 78% water. So and also um, like science says that everything has a frequency. Like even dead matter, there's like a frequency of the molecules, right? And so we're like vibrating either a positive frequency, like to ourselves,
Yeah.
and then out, but it starts here and then out, or we're in a negative frequency. And so if we like adjust what's going on inside, like, and really like in the end, it's love. Like my hypnotherapy teacher, he said we have two emotions, love and fear. And everything else like is coming down from one of those. And so like my intention with all of my clients is like, no matter what they say they want, I know what really like deep down, it's like, no, you want to feel that loving connection, and we want to like vibrate that like with ourselves and with our family, with our friends, with our coworkers. And so, yeah, the more, so all of these meditation practices, yoga practices, like all of them is really just like to help us attune to that, like, I'll call it like
Yeah.
a loving vibration. And I like the science of things, but I feel like there's some things that, science, they can't quite explain.
Yeah.
And yeah, with the work that I do, I've just seen like so many, I can only describe them as miracles, and not because like, oh, I'm some great healer or whatever. It's like, no, because like we use these tools and we tune into ourselves and we find the problem areas and we work to shift them. And then like physical, mental, emotional, like all kind of things. And I've had people like come out and just be like, "Oh, this happened to me." And I'm like, "That's incredible. Like, how is it possible?" I don't fully
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
understand, but it's definitely given me a lot more like faith in these tools, in these practices, and in my desire to like to teach.
Yeah. Do you have to be, how you've got some of these people that it's working for? Is there any people out there that it might be harder to work for, or doesn't really work for? Is there people that are susceptible to that kind of thing?
So I would say there's people who it works faster for, like where they're
Yeah.
like, I was saying earlier, like they practice and they're like every day doing these things and they feel the difference like significantly. And then there's those that they just feel the difference in the, hour or 2 hours that we're together. And then things kind of like, and so it's like no matter what, I will say 100% of the time, breath work and the breath work that I teach is different than like a lot of the schools of breath work these days are like a very rapid, intense kind of breathing. And sometimes you get dizzy, sometimes your like hands will tighten up and it can, like I've met a lot of people who are like, I'm never doing that again because it can be very uncomfortable. So the
Yeah.
breathing I teach is like very slow, very gentle, very easy to practice. And I'll say 100% of the time, like people who sit with me and do this even for 15 or 20 minutes, like they feel the relaxation set in, and that's because it's
Wow.
working on a physiological level, like we're assisting our nervous system in relaxing. It's like
Yeah.
a natural body process, you could say.
See, I need that. See, I do try that. I do try and breathe from the diaphragm. I use my nose quite a lot because I think
Mm-hmm.
you get a better air than you do with
Mm-hmm.
your mouth, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I must admit, after about 3 minutes, I'm like, so it's like trying to stay awake. And then
Yeah.
you've got the thoughts coming into your head. The
Mm-hmm.
thoughts are coming into your head. That
Mm-hmm.
inner critic's there.
Mm-hmm.
Or as the previous guest I had on, who's I've shown you the picture that she drawn me,
Mm-hmm.
T, bless her. She calls it the inner monkey. And if you've got
Uh-huh.
a problem, give it to the monkey, and the monkey
Yeah.
will hold on to it all day so you can carry
Nice.
on with your day. And I love that little
Yeah.
interpretation of that because
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense,
That's so
especially
cute.
for me, because I feel like all of us boys have got cheeky little monkeys inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
Mm-hmm.
But hypnotherapy, right? So explain this because I only know hypnosis from TV. I
Yeah.
was hypnotized on holiday
Mm-hmm.
in Mallorca, Spanish
Uh,
island,
yeah.
by I think his name was Paul McKenna, which was a famous hypnosis on TV. But he
Mm-hmm.
did the sort of hypnosis that was made you look stupid. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, it made
Yeah.
me do things right.
Mm-hmm.
And my mum filmed it,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently I don't get this right. This apparently it happened to me, and everybody in the audience, like loads of these people were sat down, and it didn't work. And my mum filmed the whole lot on my camcorder
Mm-hmm.
because she said she couldn't believe that it was working, and that there was this. He gave you this skeleton, this like blow up skeleton. He said that's your baby, and apparently I said that's not my baby. It's white. I'm brown, like.
Ah.
And I don't remember any of this, so I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Does hypnosis work, or is this a different hypnosis that you're on about?
Uh-huh. Did you volunteer for that, like to go up on stage or
No,
whatever? No,
no. My
he
mum
just
forced me on stage. She says, "Get
she
up there
forced
and
you.
enjoy yourself." Yeah, literally pushed me, and there was all these other adults. I was only young. I
Uh-huh.
was like
Uh-huh.
17,
Okay.
17 or 18. I must have
Yeah.
been 18 because I was allowed to drink
Uh-huh.
beer. So yeah, I was about
Yeah.
18.
Mm-hmm.
But my mum watched this bloke on TV, so she
Mm-hmm.
took us to this night, and
Okay.
she says, "You're going up. I ain't going up.
Uh-huh.
I ain't going up. I ain't." Get up. Next minute, and I'm there, and I'm just like, Mum, this don't work. I've seen this on TV loads of
Mm-hmm.
times. It's just entertainment purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's just going to be, yeah, I'm under, and
Mm-hmm.
then after my mum showed me this video because I didn't think, I thought, yeah, it's a load of rubbish, Mum. She showed me the video at the hotel, and I was like, hey, how can that be?
Mm-hmm.
And I've always wanted to know
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
how does that work? Is this
So
similar to what you do, or is that like a
So
different realm?
that's
Is that
like
more
stage.
showbiz?
That's, yeah, we call it like
Yeah,
stage hypnosis. It's not like therapeutic. And generally, like, so my teacher would say that all hypnosis is self hypnosis. So, like, generally when someone goes up on stage, there's like a willingness, right, to like participate, to follow the
Yeah.
instructions of the hypnotist and to go along,
Oh, is that why you asked
fine
if I walked up?
with,
Yeah.
yeah, just to see.
Yeah. Right. I
I
get
think
you
when
now.
we're younger, we're a little bit more, you could say, susceptible or open to like receiving
Yeah.
those instructions. I had one lady when I first started my practice, she wanted to record the session. Like she had her phone on her lap and she was recording. She wanted to make sure that I didn't do anything wrong or tell her, anything wrong. But, but I told her it's not that we're like tuned out. Like anyone
Yeah.
on stage, even with the stage hypnosis, if he was to tell you something that was like completely against your moral principles or values, or like empty out your bank account or take off all your clothes, or something
I
like
was gonna
that,
say,
like
yeah, that's what I'd be scared of. Yeah.
yeah, like our conscious mind would like come in there and be like, no, I'm not doing that. So it's not like we're ever
Yeah.
really like under someone's spell. It's like we either choose to like for like those working with me, like, okay, breathe, focus on your neck and shoulders, let your body relax. So either they're going to accept that suggestion, or they're going to be like, no way, I want to stay here and
Yeah.
be stressed out. And so,
Yeah.
and one example, like we call it highway hypnosis, when you're driving the car and you're thinking about whatever, what you're going to do when you get there, what happened before you left, and you miss the exit on the highway.
Yeah.
So you're still driving. It's not like you're like completely tuned out. You're safe. You're driving. Someone honks at you. You're like, oh, whoops, or a few minutes after you pass the exit, you're like, oh no, I got to turn around. So it's when our conscious mind is like kind of thinking about something else, and then our subconscious goes on to like this autopilot. Um, so that's kind of like so like with the work that I do, we distract the conscious mind through the breath. Like focus on the breathing, focus on the body, and then the body goes and the mind goes into a relaxed state. And then it's like, okay, now we can go to the sanctuary, or now we can talk to that inner child, because that inner critic, that like focus side is like busy with something else.
Yeah. Okay, and I know what you mean like that, because I've driven before and got to where I'm going, and I'm like, wow, I don't remember going past X,
Yeah.
Y, Z to get here. What's
Yeah.
happened? What's happened right now? Because,
Yeah.
and I imagine loads of people listening to this right now has had that same thing happen.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, because you do it so many times, like driving to work is the best
Yeah.
example, because you go the
Mm-hmm.
same route every day and on the way back,
Mm-hmm.
and you come home, you're like, I don't remember actually driving past now. Was I
Yeah.
asleep? Have I hit anybody? And
Yeah.
I even have phases where I've
Mm-hmm.
driven next to somebody, and I don't know if anybody else gets this, but it's so
Mm-hmm.
weird. I'll drive next to somebody, and I'll feel like, and I've visioned it, which is weird because vision,
Mm-hmm.
but I've died, and then I'm waiting for someone to say hello to me to make sure that I'm actually still alive.
Wow.
that's like proper mad,
Mm-hmm.
like yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh, have I hit somebody? Am I now a
Mm-hmm.
ghost driving my car? Am I stuck in limbo? Am
Mm-hmm.
I all right? And then the phone will ring and it's like, hello? Yeah, I'm here, hello?
Yeah, I'm
And it's like, oh,
alive.
I'm still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing happens to me quite a lot. That's quite
Mm-hmm.
fun, that is, because I'm always like,
Mm-hmm.
am I here?
Yeah, it's
But it's
like
just
what
the way
happened.
the mind works, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's dead
Yeah.
surreal, like, it brings you
It's
back,
like
like, but
part of our consciousness, right? So our conscious mind, it's like you see me, I see you, and we're in our own rooms, so we see like the things around us, like these external things. And it's compared to like the tip of the iceberg, just the stuff we see. And the subconscious is not the bottom of the iceberg. The subconscious is everything under the water. So there's like a
oh,
vast like expanse, and that's why we can go into, people will recall like childhood memories, or some people experience, whether it's fact or not, but they experience past lives, or alien abductions, or all kind of like
yeah.
things that our conscious mind is like, that didn't happen, but the subconscious, it's everything under the water. And like if you lose, let's say you lose your car keys and you can't find them and you're looking. And so like you're consciously forcing like, oh, I got to remember where I put them. I got to remember.
Yeah.
And like the exact opposite happens. You can't remember and you don't find them. And if
Yeah.
you can try this next time you lose your keys, if you just say, all right, I'll remember in a minute. And then you do something completely opposite to what you were just doing, like go brush your teeth or go play with the kids
Yeah.
or whatever. In a minute, pops up in your mind. And so that we can kind of dip into the
Ah,
subconscious that way through like suggestion. But it only comes when we're not like focusing, not trying so hard. That our conscious mind has to kind of do something else for us to have access to that space.
I'm definitely going to try that, because I must admit I've lost my keys quite a few times,
Oh yeah.
and then I go back to the original spot and they're there, and you're like, well, they weren't there a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
Or have you ever had the one with the USB? Have you had the problem with the USB? Where you try and plug it in one way and it
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
go
and it
in, so
doesn't
you
work.
turn it around and plug it in the other way, it doesn't go in. You go
It
back to the
doesn't work.
original way and it goes in. You're like,
And then it goes in.
what's
What?
happening here? I always
Totally.
think, is that like the way our mind works? It's like if you run upstairs for something, you get upstairs and you're like, what did I run upstairs for? I've totally forgot what I needed. And then you run back downstairs and retrace your steps
And
and
then
that.
you remember. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild.
So I always
So
think,
yeah,
yeah,
if we
it's like
can like
age
learn
is
to
getting to
kind
me.
of like access that part of our mind, and sort of like the way I see it is like navigating our consciousness. And we have different, like, there's different brain waves, the alpha, and I don't know them all, but like, there's different brain waves they measured. And like people who are in very deep meditation have different brain waves, and those who are like focused on just like what's going on outside.
Yeah,
And so to me, it's like navigating through our consciousness and like helping our consciousness evolve. Because like in my, my through my studies, my living in India and meditation and all these things and just like practical life experience now, it's like there's so much that's out of our control. Like literally
yeah,
nothing is really in our control, not other people, not the weather, not politics, not even our own bodily functions. Sometimes we're
yeah,
uncomfortable and we don't want to be. And so if all of these external things that we have no control over, even though we try to assert control over them,
yeah,
if they dictate, if we give all of those things permission, like, oh, it's raining and I can't like go have fun that I wanted to, now my day is ruined. So now this thing that we have no control over it has control over our happiness or our distress
yeah,
and other people or so many scenarios. And so for me, like what we do have with practice, but what we can have control over is our consciousness, is that internal reality, is that space. And if we like in India, they say like the very advanced like yogis or saintly personalities, they're equipoised. It means like good thing, bad thing, they don't see the difference. Those are just things
yeah,
like what is. That's just what is happening. But they're like situated in their heart. They're situated in love or like inner peace. And so it doesn't matter what's happening, but they go through like great effort to control their consciousness and to like be able to like go to that depth, to like stay grounded in where they want to be. And then that, to me, that's like real self-control. I'm not there
yeah,
yet. I'm, aspiring, but yeah, because I see with my clients, I've experienced it, that there's just so much that happens to us and around us. And, this world can be a kind of a dark place, and
it
if
can do,
it's like,
yeah,
if you want to go down that rabbit hole, like it is never ending. You can always find something to complain about, always find something to criticize, or you can choose like what is lovely in my life and what is good in my life.
yeah,
What can I be grateful for? And even if it's like something simple, like when I've been in my darker phases, I'm like, I'm so grateful for my eyelids. Just like
yeah,
that simple thing. But
just to,
it's like, man,
yeah,
if they weren't there, oh, it would be
yeah, you'd
horrible.
see everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
my
know what?
eyes
When
would
you
be
say that,
dry and
Oh mate, I don't even want to think about that. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh wow, just staying awake like that all day.
Yeah, it'd be awful. It'd be awful.
But no,
So just the little
what
things.
you're saying there is something that I've been practicing this week. Actually, what you just said there, it's so I'm trying to work on what anybody that says anything to me that's negative, I'm not going to allow their words or their opinions affect the way that I'm feeling or acting or giving myself out to other people. So that's a hard one I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And what was the other thing? It was, you just touched on it. What was it? It's another little thing that I'm doing. So the gratification thing. So I'm challenging everybody at the minute. I've made this little challenge. I've not seen it anywhere else, so I'm going to claim it as mine.
Yeah.
There's bound to be somebody out there to say, I did that years ago. But so gratification, the way I want to do it is, the challenge that I'm giving everybody is, when you wake up, write down 3 things that you're grateful for. Once you've used those 3 things, they are now gone. They don't exist. You've already said you're grateful for them. You've used it. That's it. And then the next day, find 3 more things that you're grateful for. Oh, they're gone now as well.
Yeah.
And I think you'll be forced to look only for the positives in life rather than looking for the negatives, because you'd be like, right, I need to find something to great. And like you just said, my eyelids. Yeah, I'm grateful for them. I was never grateful for them until you just mentioned them that. And I just thought, yeah, I'm grateful for my eyelids too. And my lips.
Yeah, so many things. We have so many things we can focus on, and like
there's so many stuff
when
we
we're
take
in
for granted as well.
gratitude, yeah, and when we're in gratitude, we can't be unhappy in a way. Like if we're feeling gratitude, we're feeling love, we're feeling those good feelings, and it's the opposite of the stuff we don't want. But as soon as we start criticizing and we start looking for problems, that rabbit hole never ends. I mean,
it just takes over, doesn't it?
And I'm sure you've met those personalities. It's like nothing ever good happens, and nothing good is in the world, and it's like it's a difficult, really, those personality, like my heart goes out to them, because it's like that's a difficult space to live in, and so gratitude journal. I'm not, you weren't the first, but my parents used to do a gratitude journal every night. They would write like 3 to 5 things they were grateful for every night, and go to bed with that, like, that mindset.
That's a good mindset to have as well, to sleep on such positives. I mean, it's like when people say don't go bed angry, but sometimes I think you should go bed angry, because you can work it out through your head, through the sleep,
through your dream,
and then hopefully wake up peaceful, because you've compartmentalized all that rubbish, and you're like, screw off, kind of thing. Plus, it's also good to have a good argument as well, I think. If you are in a relationship and whatnot, it's good to let off, because if you both agree to the same things over and over and over again, there's something going to give. There's something got to give, because I don't think anybody in this world agrees with every single thing that's said. I think it's quite healthy to have those type of arguments. But when you're arguing with yourself, when you don't love yourself, then there's no way you can love anybody else in the world. You've got to love yourself first.
Absolutely.
You've got to put yourself first in some things as well, because if you're not fit yourself, then how can you be fit to help others?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I see this all the time with doctors, because doctors and nurses, they're running around 24/7 trying to help others, but then you look at those poor souls, they're not eating great, they're eating fast foods, they're not looking after their health, and they need time. So I do feel for nurses and doctors that are like that, running around the clock, and it's just like,
same.
Well, who's looking after you?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So I always do feel like the helper also needs the help as well, kind of thing.
So important.
So that brings me around to one question I wanted to ask you. With your father dying, did you teach this breathing technique to your mother to help her get through, or did she already know most of this from the past when you were little and stuff like that?
She's actually come to some of my workshops and like my group classes, And so, she has her like her coping mechanisms as well, but we both will like through that time like kind of like give each other hugs and just like hold each other and kind of like breathe and just be there and
Yeah.
cry. And so she has a really like amazing outlook on life though, my mom. Like the first it's like you still miss the person, and I would say like that first year was probably like the hardest for both of us. But she's 73. She goes out dancing, like listens to music
Oh,
with her
wow.
friends and goes dancing like every weekend. And she has her girlfriends and they go for brunch or whatever. And she exercises, like she's fit. She has more energy than I do. So since I was
Brilliant.
like born, she started studying natural medicine and like took sugar out of our diets when I was like 8 or 9. We didn't like it, but now I'm like so grateful for her, like just educating herself. So yeah, even actually my dad, he used to get heartburn and he would take Tums, on occasion.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so one time I was like, you could get rid of that. And he's like, oh, what? I'm going to breathe. He's like making fun of me. And so
The good old
I'm,
dads, yeah,
yeah,
dad
yeah,
jokes.
exactly. Like, come on. And I'm like, no, just try it. So he's like, all right, fine, fine. Show me what to do. So I showed him this breathing technique, focusing like in his solar plexus, like where he was feeling the heartburn, and just a few minutes. And then like a week later, I came to visit him, and he's like, I don't take Tums anymore. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I just breathe. He's like, you were right, it worked. And I'm like, I told you. So then after
That's
that,
amazing.
he was a believer. Yeah. And
Yeah.
even okay, one last story. So my older daughter and I, we like bump heads on occasion. She was, we still do sometimes, but like around like 9, 10 years old, sometimes there's be like these moments. And my parents lived in the same neighborhood, so like she'd be mad and she'd be like, I'm going to grandpa's house, and I'm like,
Yep.
peace, go. So
There's your
I had
bags.
yeah, I've called my parents up like, oh hey, she's on her way, good luck. So I had
Yeah.
learned this technique in hypnotherapy training about how like even how we perceive others can affect like our relationship with them, and how like if we change our perception of others, that they can also change. So I didn't
Yeah.
put much like thought to it, but we had gotten into this big fight. So before going to bed, I visualized the fight, and then I rewrote, like we're talking about like rewriting the script. So like I rewrote the movie of our fight so that it started lovingly and it ended lovingly, and each our whole conversation was like completely different. And to get there from like where it was to where I wanted it to be, there'd be like moments, yeah, but then she said this. And so I'm like, all right, start over. So I had to like backtrack quite a few times
Yeah.
to really be able to like feel it and see it completely how I wanted it to. And so the next day she's hanging out with my dad, and he calls me up and he's like, what did you do to her? Like that's how I answer the phone. Hello. He's like, what did you do to her? And I'm like, what do you mean? What did I do to her? And he's like, she's like so happy. She's bubbly. She's like different. Like something's changed. Like, what did you do? And I'm like, well, like I meditated a little bit, on her, and I explained, what I'd done. And he's like, no, 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 that's not it. Like, no way, whatever. That's weird. Okay.
Well, like
So
she's at your mum and dad's house, and you've
yeah,
meditated and
I
said,
the night. So it was like I had meditated at night, and then the next day she had gone over there, and he noticed like some shift in her. So, but he like, whatever. That's not real Madhavi, whatever. So then about like 3, 4 months later, we had a little tiff, and I did the same thing. And this time, because she was over at my parents a lot. So but the next day after I'd done the meditation, like 3 months later after the first one, my dad calls me up and he goes, did you do that thing again? And I'm like, what thing? He goes, did that meditation thing again? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, no way. That's impossible. Like, how does it work? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know, it was just like a technique they taught me, and I just, figured I might as well try it. So even like just from my own experience, like even our perception of others, like how we envision ourselves, but how we envision the people we love, and we hold them to like this idea. And when we change that idea, not necessarily, I don't know that it changes them, but I think it changes like the way that we interact with them. And therefore, like they're going to respond differently to us. So yeah, I thought that was like a interesting story.
It was magic. It's like
Yeah.
magic, isn't it? I quite like it's like giving. I mean, me and I've never had something like that, but the one thing that I have had in my life is where me and my cousin have dreamt about the same girl. We never met the girl. Never even saw the girl. The girl wasn't even real.
Yeah.
And we were younger, and we were tiptailing, as we used to do as cousins. We was building skate ramps at night, and we were top and tail, we call it. So where you're in the same bed, but you're upside down, and the other one's facing the other way in bed, like. And we're only young, and we both woke up and we said, "Oh, I had a dream." And he went, "What about?" I went, "A blonde-haired girl in a red dress." He went, "Yeah, I had that dream."
Oh my God.
We
That's
don't
wild.
know. We still speak about it to this day.
Yeah.
He was on about it at work. He works for me now. And I says, "Do you remember that dream?" He went, "Yeah, the one with the blonde hair and the red dress." I was like, "Mate, we still don't know how we're doing." We kept saying,
so wild.
Was our hands touching the head or something? But obviously my face was near his feet and his head was near my feet kind of thing. And we're like, well, what could do this? I don't understand. But yeah, that's the thing that's ever happened to me. And I will say, positive thinking as well really, really attracts positivity.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm thinking positive things, things start to happen.
Yeah.
But then it's when I realise these things are always happening. It's because I'm in a negative mindset that I can't see these things happening.
Yeah.
I'm taking the bad stuff out of every bit of the day. So if someone says, like, I said this to a mate today, he suffers with negativity quite a lot. I'm getting better now. But he says, I could be in the middle of a mall and there'll be a piece of dog poo on the floor and I will be the one to step in it, he says. And I says, but if you're that unlucky, then surely you're lucky. He went, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you're lucky enough to touch it. What if that's money? You're the one to find it. And I said, try and flip your mindset.
Yeah.
And he walked away. He ended that phone call with 3 things that I'd managed to do to him today. Just nice. Today, just 3 things. I helped him clear like £23,000 worth of debt.
Wow.
Just by giving him advice on who to speak to sort this mess out. I told him about changing, obviously, the mindset to more positive. Start thinking about positives instead of that. I said, if you look at the situation in a bad light, you're only going to see bad light coming back at you. So think more positive about it. And then I forget what the third thing was. Oh, you mentioned, it was this podcast. He said, if it weren't for you and this podcast and speaking, he says, you've got this gift. Now, this is weird. This is true story. This is. So today, he couldn't believe, he was sat with me witnessing what had happened today. And I sat in this truck with him and this guy walked across from outside this other driver and I went, you're right, mate, you look like Clint Eastwood. Straight up, that's all I said. You look like Clint Eastwood because he looked like Clint Eastwood. And he spent 45 minutes of mine and my friend's break chatting to us about his whole life story, about his wife, about his kids, about what his wife had done to him. And my mate Darren, he says, you've just got that thing about you, Jermaine. You allow people to open up to you. And I went, but I don't understand how or why. And he says, well, look at you, for instance. He says, Jermaine, you've helped me. He said, if it wasn't for you and your podcast and me coming to this job and finding you and you picked me out and become my friend at work, he said, I wouldn't be here now. Because he was that down. And he keeps saying about that, the word. I don't like saying the word. I've just passed a course in what it is, suicide. He said, if it wasn't for you and this podcast, I perhaps would have been there. But he said, I've got friends that I've known for years and I've never opened up. He said, I've known you for 4 months and I've told you my whole life story.
That's beautiful.
Like, I'm thinking like, what? It's just me. I don't understand. Why do you want to talk to me? And then he mentioned it. He says, I can't believe what I've just seen. That bloke was walking. He said, if I'd said hello to that bloke, he would have just carried on walking by and said, yeah you're right, mate. He said, but he's told you about what his wife done to him, about his kids in the police station and stuff. He's told you all of his life. And I was like, I
Yeah.
don't understand, mate. I don't get it. I just chat to people.
But you're
But I
curious. I
learn
think
from
you're
people.
curious and you're
Yeah.
open to hear, to learn, and people, whether you don't have to necessarily verbalize that, but just with that intention, that you want to connect with others. And it's rare, to be honest with you. Like, it is a rare thing to be a person who is open to receive, because a lot of people, they ask how you are, but they want to hear fine, bye. you know
Yeah.
not
It
actually
is the
looking for that
world.
connection.
No.
So people are like hungry for that, for connection. And so when you open the door, for them, for that, then it's like, oh yeah, finally, yes, I want to
Yeah.
share.
And I love
'Cause,
it. I
yeah,
really enjoy
exactly.
it. I like to
Hmm.
listen to people's lives, what they've gone through, and
Hmm.
how the day's been.
Hmm.
But like you said, like no one really, and that's the world I live in my head. So my positive from that is, so my
Hmm.
negative head is telling me, Jermaine, you are surrounded by entitled people that only think about themselves, that are all selfish. They need to
Hmm.
be there first. Whether that's in Big Mac queue, they've got to be the first person to get the burger. They've got to be the
Yeah.
first person to get the new iPhone. They're going to queue for days just to see that artist.
Yeah.
And we see
Hmm.
it,
Yeah, we
on
see it.
Facebook. Everyone's spreading lies. Everyone's spreading lies
Yep.
on Facebook. Here I am enjoying myself. Why not
Mhm.
show that time when you was arguing at your kids? I'd rather
Yeah.
see the real you. I don't want to see the
Yes.
fake version of you, the
Hmm.
version that you want to be. I want to see you.
Hmm.
Who are you? I say on here, I get angry at my kids. I get
Yeah.
angry at myself. I get angry at my
Yeah.
missus. I don't
Hmm.
mean to, but you hurt the
Yeah,
ones you
but it
love the most.
happens. Yeah.
It happen. I'm being
Yeah.
honest. I'm being
Mhm.
truthful and honest. I'm
Mhm.
not the best person to be around at times. Sometimes I'm an arsehole.
Yeah.
It's just who I am. I
That's
don't
life.
mean to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mean to
Mhm.
be, but some days, if you catch me on the bad day, you're
Mhm.
going to get an horrible person.
Yeah.
But then on the next day, you might get the greatest person in the world that's going to do
Mhm.
everything for you and give the coat off his back. There you go,
Mhm.
mate. Take that.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. But I'm also open to what's the word? So if I've done something wrong, or if I say, oh no, this happened,
Mhm.
I'm in that position where someone can re-educate me and say, no, I have an open book here. Look at it this from
Yeah.
this angle.
You're
So I
receptive.
like to do that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Yeah, you're
to.
receptive.
I'm not going around like, no, I said this and that's the truth and that's how it goes. Because you see people like
Mhm.
that where it's only one narrative. I
Yes.
think they call it in this world
Yeah.
Karens or something like that. I hear
Yeah.
the Karen thing,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, well, surely you should just be open to both sides. There's always two sides to a story,
Yes,
kind
absolutely.
of
Two
thing.
or
So that's
three
how
or
I'm trying
four.
to.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think we like our senses are limited, it's like we only see so many things. We can only, but if we're receptive, if we're open to like miracles, to joy, to love, to connection, like if we open our hearts or our minds to that, like it's like that we're opening the doors, like welcoming people, welcoming
yeah.
ideas, and I feel like so much like magic can happen when we do that, instead of just
It
like
doesn't. It actually feels like
blinders.
magic.
Yeah, it does. That's a affirmation I use sometimes. I'm just like, my life is magic. My life is magic, because it's like that's what I want to see. That's what
Yeah,
I want to experience. And yeah, it's so and I mean, bad things are going to happen whether we try for them or not. Good things are going to happen whether we try. Like, that's just the nature of this, being here.
yeah. Well, nothing's guaranteed, neither
Yeah,
is it?
no,
When a lot
not
of
at
people,
all.
no, because I'm trying to re-sculpt my mother's mind at the minute, because she
Mm,
worries about everything, every
yeah,
single thing she worries. She worries about me on the road in the truck,
yeah.
and she rings up. She's panicking on the phone. Are you okay,
Oh,
Jermaine? Are you okay? I'm like,
mm,
Mom, there's no point in worrying over anything you've
hmm.
got no control over. Whatever
Yeah,
will happen will happen.
hmm,
I said, there's no
exactly.
point in worrying, because worrying will just kill you. It will end your life
Yeah,
a lot sooner. I says, the
yeah,
best thing is to do, no news is good news, and just to
hmm,
try and just relax. I said, you
yeah.
worrying
Just
about me every day is
yeah,
doing no good for you. It's not
hmm,
you're a prisoner trapped in your own brain kind of
hmm,
thing. Just chill. Just chill.
yeah.
Whatever happens will
Suffering, the
happen. We'll deal with it.
imagination. Yeah, It's like
It's not even
suffering through
there.
your
It's not
mattress.
real.
It's not actually what's happening. And stress doesn't make like any situation better. It doesn't make our lives better. It doesn't make like a solution easier to come by if we're facing a problem. Like it's really, like you said, like a negative, like just we're creating our own suffering. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, if we can be like, imagine the best, imagine the best case
Yeah.
scenario, and then something even better could happen. And then, whoa,
It's getting to that place though, isn't it? Because I
Yes.
do it. I overthink. I always think the
hmm
worst case scenario every time,
hmm
whatever I'm doing, the
hmm
worst thing's going to happen. Like,
hmm
I'm going to fall down a manhole today. I'm going to just
Yeah.
drop down this hole. I'm now in the sewers.
uh
I'm living with Splinter and the turtles, and I can't get back out. I'm going to have to marry a crocodile or something and have crocodile heads with human legs. That's my
Oh,
life.
great.
That's how the
Well, it's
imagination
natural.
works. But
Yeah, exactly. I
yeah,
mean, it is natural. I've done like exercises where it's like when like if the negative thought is like so big or the fear is like so much where it's like it's hard to just like you can't turn it off and like shift out. So we had talked about that, like what would be better and what would be better. So I'll do the like, okay, what are you worried about? Like face it, imagine it, feel like as if it's already happening. And then what would be worse? And then like I'll go into the worst thing. And what would be even worse than that? Oh, and I'll be like crying or like angry or like going through the feelings like it's real. And then at least from my experience, like the worst, 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 worst. And then it's like at some point, what would be worse than that? Well, I'll be dead. And then there's some point in my brain that's like, well, that's going to happen anyway. And it's like, oh, okay, I don't have to be
yeah.
afraid. Like,
I know that's the biggest thing for me. Honestly,
yeah.
I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't like. That's what worries me because I always think to
Mm-hmm.
myself, "Well, why was I born
Mm-hmm.
if I'm just living to die?" That I have a hard time with that, a real
Mm-hmm.
hard time because I'm thinking, "Why have I done all this work,
Mm-hmm.
come into the world to pay to society, to then retire really late on, and perhaps never even make retirement and pass away?" And it's just like, well, so that to me in my head is
Yeah.
really hard to
Mm-hmm.
work out. So I try not to think about that part of my life anymore. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like I know it's going to happen, but while
Mm-hmm.
I'm here, so there's
Yeah.
a saying we say. Obviously, I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time. So I'm going to
Yeah.
try my best to have the
Yeah.
good time. I've went through a bad
Exactly.
stage.
Mm-hmm.
Podcast was born from that bad stage,
Mm-hmm.
and now hopefully I'm turning a new leaf. And I don't know. A lot of times I'm thinking now being a counsellor, being a therapist, something like that. But then I'm thinking the negative to me. Well, I can't quit my job. I need my job to
Yeah.
pay my bills.
Right.
It's expensive to go to university and college to become that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so it's one of those. So I think when you do a change, it's a massive risk that's there
Mm-hmm.
as well. If you want to change the world, there's a big risk that's
It
attached,
is. It is.
and the
But
risk there is no job, no money
yeah.
to learn.
And I mean, our time is temporary. Like everything in this world, like this is why I like, for me, like the Indian philosophy comes in because it's like the nature of this world is that everything is temporary. We can see that everything is temporary, but
Yeah,
we're not this body. So the Vedic teachings talk about like at the end of the day when you take off your work clothes and you put on your pajamas, you don't look at those work clothes and go, "Oh my God, I'm gonna miss you so much. Oh, my jeans." It's like just a shift. It's just like, okay,
yeah,
those clothes go in the hamper and this new clothes come on. And so the Vedic philosophy teaches that we're not this body. Like that's not who we are. If you lose an arm, that's not you. If you lose a leg, that's not you. There's still
that's
something
the
that is
body. Yeah,
you. And so that the who we are is an eternal spirit. And that's why like when we try to conceive of like an end, like eternal sleep or whatever, like it's like almost impossible to really
yeah,
grasp because that's not really
yeah,
our nature as spirit. And so like science says, energy is never created or destroyed. And so like the energy of the soul that is like consciousness, and it moves from one life form to another, like one outfit to another outfit to another outfit.
yeah.
and it's like a progression, like an evolution. And when the consciousness evolves to, like, you could say, like a highest state or a divine, like a pure love state, then it gets out of this like cycle of being recycled. You can say, like, birth,
Yeah,
death, old age is again and again. So like I take a lot of like comfort for me in that, because I experience those feelings of like, I don't want to end, I want to evolve.
evolve.
I
Yeah.
want to grow, I want to continue.
No, I get that so much. As a kid, I used to say this thing that was quite similar to what you just said there, and this was when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I must have been about 10 or 11, and it still plays on my mind now. And
Mm-hmm.
what it was if you do bad in this world, because I kept saying it, so in my head, I feel like I'm old. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
know this sounds weird, but most of my friends are a lot older than me. I get on
Mm-hmm.
with older people. I always
Yeah,
have, and I've
same.
been told when I was younger, I've got an old head.
Yeah, old
The way
soul.
I think, the way I do think, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was about 10 or 11, I kept saying, if you're here, it's because you've done wrong in a previous life. Because I believe that this is the worst place. And I know that sounds stupid because it's Earth,
Mm-hmm.
but we see our loved ones disappear. They die in front of us. We
Yeah.
have to pay taxes
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. We have to see all the wars going on and all
Yep.
the maliciousness that's going on, hungry children
Mm-hmm.
starving. So we see quite a lot of devastation
Yeah.
during this. And I think if you are, obviously it's just my thoughts when I was 10, not now. Obviously, I've
Yep.
grown up now. But and then what happened was I kept saying, so if you do bad, if you don't go to work but you are fit to work, if you commit murder, commit rape, or all the bad things whichever it is, I believe that you come back to this world
Mm-hmm.
because you haven't learnt the lesson of life.
Yep.
I think that's temptations that have surrounded you. So you've kept going into the temptation, easy money, oh, easy that, and take. And I
Exploit. It's
think,
like, yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
exploiting what's
Putting.
around you, like the fruits on the tree,
Yeah.
the fruit, don't,
Mm-hmm.
Adam and Eve, don't take that fruit. It's there, it
Right.
looks lovely,
Mm-hmm.
but you've got to hold yourself back.
Yeah.
And and when I was 10, I kept thinking, because I had quite a bad upbringing, I thought, I think I had to suffer that because I think that teaches me life.
Yeah.
But the reason why it was given to me, the temptation is for me to go back and do the same thing to other people.
Yeah.
Bullies be bullies kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
because I stayed away from that and thought, right, never going to hit women, never going to hit kids because I see my mum get beat up by my dad, saw me be beat up by my dad, I'm not going to
Yeah.
do that. So then when you go through life, I kept thinking to myself, maybe I'm on my last life here. And that's why I've got this old head, even at 10. This is my last time. I'm evolving this time.
Mm-hmm.
I've messed up. I've hit the brick walls. And as I've got older, I've come across brick wall after brick wall, and it's been a really hard struggle. But I've still got back up on my feet, dusting my shoulders down, and carried on. And that's what I keep thinking. I feel like this is it. This is my last life. So a little bit like what you're saying with the spirit, I think I've perhaps messed up for so many lifetimes
Yeah.
before. And now I feel like I've conquered it. I've hit life because real life's hard. I think life's supposed to be hard to challenge you for the next
Yeah.
life. If you
Yeah.
find it too easy, then what's the point?
Yeah.
Because all of us
Exactly.
can be tempted. So
Mm-hmm.
that was my 10-year-old head, and I'm now 38. So that was like 28 years ago I thought of that in school.
Yeah. That's deep though. That's
That's
deep.
mad. It's
My
proper deep, yeah.
yeah, my guru, he would say, like, if you only ever ate cake and that's all you ate, you wouldn't know what sweetness was. You have to have spicy and salty and bitter
Yeah.
and sour, and that's like all those flavors. Then you can like really relish that cake. You can relish the sweetness. But if it was all always sweet, then we wouldn't, we wouldn't know the difference,
Be
which
boring
is
as well.
boring. Variety is the spice of life,
Variety, yeah. 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 I tell you what, it's been amazing.
Yes.
It's
Yeah, I
been a
appreciate
journey.
you. Yeah, I feel like we could probably talk for like hours and hours and hours. Like some of the things you said, I'm like, oh, I could. But I know we have to keep it within a time. So maybe you'll invite me back, or we can,
100%,
talk some more.
100%. No, this is what this space is for.
Hmm.
It's an open space, non-judgmental.
Hmm.
It's speak your mind,
Yeah.
and if anybody does judge it, well, that's them. It's not you.
Yeah. I don't
It's not
mind.
me. If
Judge
someone judges
away.
me about my 10-year-old body, go
Yeah.
ahead, judge that 10-year-old kid that thought like that.
Yeah.
That's how I used to think. It was
Yeah.
blow my, But no, it's been amazing having you on. And I definitely
Thank
do
you.
want you on. If anything, if you can spare your time for the next
Hmm.
one, or even do a special with me where you're actually doing a meditation class
Yeah.
where the
I would
listeners can
love that.
join in, because I think that would be quite cool.
Yes. That would be awesome.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
because then people can interact with that one as well.
Hmm.
But before that, where
Hmm.
so do you do lives on your Facebook or anything like that, or
S-
lessons? So I know
So,
you're working on your website.
yeah, so I've done like one Facebook Live. Usually I do Zoom because for me, what I realize is like I need a face, like I need to like
Yeah,
see others' response, and that like feeds me. Like as far as like, okay, what I'm saying is like it's going in, it's processing, or maybe I need to re-explain something by the reactions of my audience, you could say.
yeah.
So,
Seeing is believing. Yeah, I see that.
yeah. It's like, I don't know, interactive. Like I don't want to feel like I'm just talking to like a screen, you could say.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, but I've done like I've been a couple times. There's a like a WhatsApp grief group, and they have like a Zoom thing, and I've done Zoom, and I do locally. I do like in person group workshops. But I would be, yeah, totally happy as long as I could see one, like your face or one person's face.
yeah. No, that's awesome. That's
But yeah,
awesome.
like a guided breathing meditation, and just kind of like, get everybody relaxed and chill. I would love to share that. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there any links you would like to shout out or anything like that? Because you can obviously send me them and I can put them into the show notes for the
Okay.
listeners so they can reach out to you, which is your Facebook and Instagram,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I'm updating, but you can find me the Prana Academy LLC on Facebook and the Prana Academy on Instagram, and then that way you can reach out. And Facebook, I've got like some more like reviews and testimonials, so you can see like I'm not just making stuff up. And
That's
if
awesome.
anyone wants to reach out, they can reach out through there, and eventually it'll be updated and fancy.
No, that's 100%. And to the listeners, Prana spelt Prana Academy, just
Hmm.
in case
Yes,
you
yes,
can't
just in
see that
case.
on the screen if you're not watching this on YouTube. Because yes, we're on YouTube now. We're on Spotify as well with a video. A friend of mine's created me a Discord. Yay! So
Nice.
we've got
Yay.
a nice little place where everybody can interact, speak. We're going to have episodes on there on all the updates because I don't know what I'm doing with social media.
Hmm.
I'll be honest
Yeah.
with you. I'm still trying to work it all out. Still trying to sort out an website. Sorry,
Hmm.
because all I know how to do at the minute is record this and speak to
Yeah.
people.
That's
It's
great.
almost like I want a little team to deal with all that for me. Like, there's the episode.
Yes.
Can you upload it to wherever you need it to go to? And hopefully it helps one person in the world
Hmm.
save their life. Hopefully, that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. Well, let's
But
put it
it's
out
also a
there.
place to bring
We are
people
inviting a team to help us
on.
with
Yeah,
all the other stuff so that we can do what we love to do and help others.
exactly. And that's all it is. It's about helping, isn't it? It's about
Hmm.
making sure that everybody out there understands that they're not alone, that there
Yeah.
is help out there for everybody. And we've all been through a story. Every one of us has got a story.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
like the podcast name's called, still worth the journey. And so are you guys.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Thank
Thanks for tuning in. And thank you, Madhavi.
Madhavi. Madhavi.
Madhavi.
It's
I will
okay.
get it one day.
By like the
When you
third
next come
visit,
on,
you'll get it down. It'll be fine.
yeah, Madhavi. I will get it one. I promise you. All right,
Thank
guys. See
you
you next
so
week.
much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today on Still Worth the Journey. It's been an incredible journey of self-discovery, healing and growth, and I'm so grateful for your support. I want to express my sincere gratitude to each and every one of you who has tuned in. Whether you've been here with us since the beginning or just starting your journey with us, your commitment to understanding and improving your mental health is truly inspiring. And I hope that you found our discussions valuable. Remember, our podcast is available on all major podcast platforms, so you can revisit your favourite episode or catch up on ones you might have missed. You can also find us over at YouTube by searching Still Worth the Journey. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring that notification bell to stay updated with our latest content. For those looking for even more engagement and resources, visit our Facebook page or the Instagram page by searching Still Worth the Journey. There you'll find additional content and links to support organisations that can help you on your mental health journey. If you did want to go a step further and support us, we now have a Patreon page. The link will be in the show notes. Once again, thank you for being a part of our community and for believing that the journey to better mental health is still worth the journey. We look forward to continuing this exploration with you. Take care, be kind to yourself, and remember you are never alone in this. Goodbye for now, and until next time, stay strong and keep moving forward.